Good morning, everybody. It's lovely to be with you again on this beautiful Friday morning. It looks like just been looking at the forecast. Looks like it's going to be a beautiful weekend coming up. So that's great, isn't it? Thanks for joining me this morning and checking in on our live devotion. It's really, really good to have you with us. I want to start by just sharing a little story this morning. And the story is, it happened a few weeks ago. Michelle and I really enjoy walking. We've been on quite a lot of walking holidays over the years, and we have really enjoyed walking throughout the last few months, particularly enjoying the lovely weather. And a few weeks ago, Michelle, she was ready to go for a walk, and I was just putting my training shoes on, ready to go for a walk with her. And she said something that was like a dagger to my heart. She said, "Come on, chubby." And she said, "Come on, chubby." And I put my trainers on. I didn't say anything. And put my trainers on, and we started to go for like a 3-4 mile walk. And as we were going for a walk, this little phrase kept going on through my head. What my wife said to me, "Come on, chubby." And I'm thinking, oh my goodness me. So after but like a few minutes of just walking down the road and just walking out into the countryside, I turned to Michelle and I said, "Am I really chubby?" And she said, you could do with losing a few pounds. And I thought, oh my goodness. And I began to think, how did I get like that? How have I put on a few extra pounds? How have I got a little bit chubby round the waist? And as I began to think about that, I realised that probably I've become a little indisciplined with my exercise. It's been nice weather. Probably had a few too many glasses of wine. All those calories. Eaten a little bit too much food. Gone for second helpings a bit too often, and the consequences are that I've put a few too many pounds on around my middle. It was at that time when I was reading the Bible in 1 year that Nicky Gumbel, one of his days was called No Sloppy Living, and he referred to 1 Corinthians chapter 9. I want to read a few verses, just 3 verses from 1 Corinthians chapter 9. I'm going to read it from the Message because it says this in 1 Corinthians 9 verses 24 and 25. It says this: "You've all been to the stadium and seen the athletes race. Everyone runs, but only one wins. Run to win," Paul says. "All good athletes train hard. They do it for a gold medal that tarnishes and fades, but you are after one that's gold eternally." And then he goes on to say this in verse 26 of 1 Corinthians 9. He says this: "I don't know about you, but I'm running hard for the finish line. I'm giving it everything I've got. No sloppy living for me. I'm staying alert and in top condition." I love that little phrase in the Message. It says, "No sloppy living for me." And that was the title of the Bible in 1 year on August the 15th, around about the same time when Michelle said to me, "Come on, chubby." I remember listening to an interview from a guy called Stephen Hendry years ago. Stephen Hendry won the world snooker title 7 times. And I remember him being interviewed on television, and the guy that was interviewing him said this: "How have you managed to win 7 world snooker titles?" That's the world record. No one has ever won 7 titles except Stephen Hendry. And Stephen Hendry said one sentence. It's one of those things that you kind of sticks in your mind. He said, "I practice 7 hours a day. I practice 7 hours a day." That's pretty amazing, isn't it? I remember when I was younger, I was really into playing table tennis, and I became quite good. And my dad took me to have some coaching by the Suffolk County coach. And I remember when I used to go over to Brandon, it was in Suffolk, and I used to go over to his house, and he had a big barn outside with all the gear set up for table tennis. He took me in, and as part of my coaching, he drew a little circle right on the corner of the table tennis table, a little semicircle, and he said, "Graham," he said, I want you to practice so much that you can get the table tennis ball landing in that little area of the table every time. And I remember thinking, I can't do that. That was just like a little tiny area of the table tennis table. But this is what happened. I began to practice and practice and practice and practice. And I began to play my shots consistently. And you know what? In the end, 8 times out of 10, I could get the ball in that little area right on the corner of the table. Stephen Hendry practiced 7 hours a day. That's why he became the world snooker champion 7 times. I went for a walk with Pete Clark. Pete Clark is, Pete's about 58 years old. And Pete, he does a lot of running. And I went for a walk with him just the other Sunday. And I just asked him some of the things that he's been doing in his running over the last few months. And he was telling me that he belongs to a running club and they set like targets every week and you have to record it. And he said there are certain things that he's been doing every single week, little challenges. I know that like Pete, in his age group, he's one of the top runners in the county of Norfolk and the county of Suffolk within his age group. And he's won different like events within that category. But I know that every single week and maybe once or twice a week, you know, he goes out running, he trains. And he doesn't just do it in the nice weather. He doesn't just do it when it's like he feels like it. But he goes out in the winter time. He gets his trainers on, he gets his gear on, and he goes running, he practices. And Paul says to the Corinthian church, he says, I don't know about you, but I'm running hard. I'm giving it everything I've got. I've been talking to a few people in the church and they've done this like from a couch to 5K. And they've just begun to do training, they've begun to run, they've begun to practice. And there is something about the discipline of training, there's something about the discipline of practice. And I want to leave you with a thought this morning, and it's very simply this. Are you training hard? Are you giving your spiritual walk, your Christian walk, everything you've got? Or are you a bit sloppy in your living? You know, it's easy, isn't it, to blag? You know, I could blag about, you know, I pray a lot, I read my Bible a lot, etc., etc., etc. But only I know how good I'm doing at that. You see, it's not easy to hide the few extra pounds around the middle, you know, when your shirts are a bit tight. And the reason that I have become a little bit overweight, the reason I have put on a bit of weight is because I've been a little bit sloppy in my exercise probably, and I've been a little bit indisciplined with the amount of intake with regards to my food and perhaps even my drink. And Paul says to the church in Corinthians, he says, we need to train hard. We need to give it everything we've got. No sloppy living for me. Do you know, there are no shortcuts to our walk with God, as much as we'd like them to be sometimes. I remember listening to an interview with John Tyson, a guy that leads a big church in New York City, and he talked about the disciplines that he felt God called him to. And one of the things that he decided to do was watch no screens for a whole year. That's no television, that's no Facebook, that's no social media, because he wanted to give his time to fasting, to prayer, to the disciplines that would make him a more effective and a more disciplined Christian. And so my question to myself this morning is, have we become a little bit spiritually chubby, you know? Have we lost the disciplines, or have we never really got them? And I want to bring a challenge this morning, and I want to bring an encouragement this morning. How are you with your spiritual disciplines? You know, have you become a little bit chubby in that area? Or are you working hard to pray, to spend disciplined time in prayer? There are no shortcuts. Are you working hard in the disciplines of the Word of God? Do you fast? You know, they're really important questions in our life. But my prayer this morning for all of us is that we don't become spiritually chubby, but we run the race, we discipline ourselves, we practice hard at the spiritual disciplines in our lives that enable us to become more effective in all we're doing. How are you doing? I want to encourage you. I don't want to make you feel condemned. I don't want to put a pressure on you. But I want to encourage myself this morning and you this morning. How are we doing in our spiritual disciplines, in our prayer lives, in our intake of the Word of God? I pray this morning that God would help us to train hard and to work hard at living for Him in our everyday life. Have a great day today. We'll see you on Sunday, and God bless you. Thanks a lot.